Jung's psychological types serves to provide a comprehensive account of what he termed the type problem as it arises in various disciplines within the arts and sciences. The first 9 chapters deal with the historical treatments of typology, and a video summarizing this part of the book is linked in the description below. In this video, we shall explore Chapter 10 of the book, which provides a broad overview of the various psychological types identified by Jung, and which serves as a foundation for Jung's theory of personality, temperament, and human behavior. As Jung explains, everyone in a society has one of 2 distinct attitudes, regardless of gender. This is a widespread psychological phenomenon that seems to occur randomly, and isn't something people choose consciously. Children tend to show signs of one of these attitudes from a young age, which suggests that it's not something they learn from their parents, but is instead a part of their individual personality. The reasons for these personality differences aren't yet clear, and could be linked to physiology. Trying to change from one attitude to the other can harm a person's physical health, and cause them to feel exhausted. Section B. The Extraverted Type. As we begin, we must be aware of the distinction between the conscious and unconscious psychology. The extraverted type is characterized by an outward orientation of consciousness, where the focus is on the external world and its stimuli. They are easily influenced by their environment and are highly adaptable to change. They are also sociable and enjoy being in the company of others. The extrovert is often seen as outgoing and confident, with a strong sense of social awareness and a need for external validation. However, they can be prone to overvaluing the external world and neglecting their inner selves. Our conscious attitude is always balanced out by our unconscious attitude. So, when the extrovert focuses too much on external factors and ignores their own feelings, they facilitate the suppression of those feelings. The unconscious then compensates by focusing on these repressed desires and needs, which can be primitive and self-centered. The more we suppress our feelings, the more primitive they become. The level of extroversion in our conscious attitude is therefore related to the level of primitiveness in the unconscious. When our conscious attitude becomes too extreme, it can cause a collapse wherein the unconscious becomes revealed. 1. Extraverted Thinking. Extraverted thinking relies on facts from the senses, while introverted thinking focuses on subjective and unconscious ideas. Extraverted thinking follows external standards, while introverted thinking is dominated by subjective judgment. Science and commerce use extraverted thinking, while philosophy may use different ways of thinking. Our society mainly recognizes extraverted thinking. People's psychological functions vary in strength and development, with one usually dominating. Extraverted thinking types, such as Charles Darwin for example, prioritize the intellect over emotions, and use their intellect to create new insights through synthetic judgment. They also aim to align their life with a perceived objective truth, which again can lead to the repression of other aspects of life, and can potentially cause neurosis. Extraverted thinking is tied to a repression of feeling, which can manifest in various ways, such as neglecting personal interests in favor of an ideal, or as being oversensitive. This in turn can lead to a lack of sympathy and to dogmatic, rigid thinking. 2. Extraverted Feeling. Extraverted feeling is based on objective information rather than personal emotions. It follows societal norms and values, but if the focus on the outside world becomes too strong, the personal aspect of feeling may disappear, becoming detached and unreliable. This can lead to inconsistent or even exaggerated emotions. An extraverted feeling type places importance on emotions and can control them effectively. They make decisions based on their emotions and general values, and this can lead to successful relationships and parenthood, but it also means suppressing their thinking. Consequently, their thinking becomes secondary to emotions, causing their personality to change based on different emotions. Their emotional decisions can become unstable and subject to change, leading to a lack of stability in themselves. This creates a vicious cycle, as the need to fit in with their surroundings becomes more important, and unconscious conflicts arise. This leads the extraverted feeling type to repress both thinking and feeling, as to prevent them from interfering with each other. 3. Extraverted rational types. Extraverted thinking and feeling types are both classified as rational or judging types, due to their dominant use of reasoning and judgment in their lives. This classification is subjective, and can only be understood through the individual's conscious psychology. These types rely on objective data and socially accepted norms for their reasoning. However, repressed subjectivity can result in an unconscious influence of primitive sensations and intuitions, and can manifest as negative traits such as compulsive behavior. 4. Extraverted sensation. In the extraverted attitude, the sensation function is impacted by both the object and the subject. If a rational function like thinking or feeling takes priority, subjective sensation is suppressed. But when sensation is prioritized, it has a strong impact, leading to a strong connection to objects that evoke sensation. Sensation is valued based solely on the strength of the sensation it brings. It highlights concrete objects and processes, but represses intuition, which is an unconscious function of perception. People who prioritize concrete reality may have inferior development of their judgment and reasoning functions. Extraverted sensation types prioritize concrete experiences and seek new sensations. They look for enjoyment, and their morality is based on their enjoyment. They differentiate sensations to a high level of aesthetic purity, all for the goal of sensing the object. They may not be deep thinkers, for they focus on objective facts, and they reduce everything to concrete foundations. Moreover, their focus on sensation can result in them becoming pure pleasure seekers, or unscrupulous, which leads to repressed unconscious material and superstitions. 5. Extraverted intuition. Intuition in an extraverted attitude is an unconscious perception of external objects. It appears as perceptive expectation, but is difficult to fully understand. It is not just perception, but a creative process that shapes and unconsciously affects the object. Intuition's main purpose is to find relations and conditions that other functions may miss. When intuition is prioritized, thinking, feeling, and sensation are suppressed, with sensation being most affected as it interferes with intuition's clarity. Intuition is guided by unconscious expectation, and any sensation can lead, based on its value, to intuition. Intuition looks for possibilities in external situations, and it becomes overwhelming if the situation is hopelessly blocked. Objects are valuable to intuition only if they offer new possibilities, and intuition is willing to sacrifice everything for new opportunities. As extraverted intuition types are always looking for new opportunities, they are quick to embrace new objects and ideas. However, they often abandon these things once the possibilities become limited. Their morality is based on their loyalty to their views, which is noble but lacks proper judgment. They are commonly found working as merchants, contractors, speculators, and politicians. They can bring great success to a project, but if they are not careful, they may waste their life chasing after new opportunities. 6. Extraverted irrational types. Extraverted sensation and intuition are two irrational personality types, as they base decisions on perceptions rather than reason. They excel in perception, but they lack good judgment, which is based solely on experience and is often unconscious. Extraverted irrational types are those that are highly aware of their surroundings, including the past and future. They have a very accurate understanding of objective reality, and they are very excited by external happenings and new experiences. Section C. The Introverted Type. Introverts differ from extroverts in that they make decisions based on personal feelings rather than objective facts. This leads to different interpretations of the same object. The introvert's subjective view thus affects their actions, and is just as important in shaping perception as the object itself. They are also likely to be more reserved and private than the extraverted type. However, as this subjective factor is subject to individual variability, excessive development can lead to an artificial subjectification of consciousness. The subjective factor in consciousness has a superior position, causing the objective factor to be inferior and not given enough importance. In introversion, the ego has too much influence, leading to compensation in the form of unconscious reinforcement of the object's influence. The ego's attempts to assert itself and its individuality can lead to an unconscious dependence on objective facts, which manifest as phobias, compulsions, and a primitive relationship with objects seen as having magical powers. This results in fear and distrust of new objects and a longing for a more controlled environment. 1. Introverted thinking. Introverted thinking is based on personal beliefs and emotions, not external facts. It creates ideas from these internal factors, but can sometimes neglect or distort facts. It is highly analytical and aims to form a subjective representation of external facts, which results in imaginative theories. However, it can also become overly subjective and detached from reality. Moreover, their tendency for over-analysis and rumination can lead to isolation and a lack of meaningful social connections. The introverted thinking type, represented for example by Immanuel Kant, values subjective ideas more than objective facts. They focus inwardly, seeking depth over breadth, unlike extroverted thinkers like Darwin who focus on objective facts. Introverted thinkers may have trouble connecting with objects and appear indifferent or hostile. They can be stubborn in their ideas, but are easily swayed by personal influence. Their work is often slow, meticulous, and unclear to others, as they struggle to connect their ideas with reality. 2. Introverted feeling. Introverted feeling is driven by subjective factors. It is difficult to understand as it prioritizes the individual's emotions and is less expressive than extroverted feeling. This type of feeling values personal emotions over external facts, which are often hard to communicate with others. It can appear indifferent for the sake of self-defense, and it can lead to unsympathetic behavior when it becomes egocentric. To effectively communicate, introverted feeling needs to find a way to express its emotions. However, when it becomes too focused on the self, it can cause unconscious thinking to be vulnerable to external influence. Introverted feeling is common among women who tend to keep their emotions and motivations hidden. They prioritize their subjective feelings and can appear distant or indifferent to others. This can lead to misunderstandings, but they can also have a harmonious relationship with objects. They may express their feelings in subtle ways, such as through poetry or motherhood, and may have a mysterious allure. However, this type of feeling can also result in unscrupulous ambition or cruelty if it becomes egocentric. 3. Introverted rational types. The two rational types base their reasoning and judgment on a mix of objective and subjective data. However, an individual's early childhood experiences often result in a bias towards objective or subjective factors, leading to imbalanced judgment. The introverted rational type emphasizes subjective factors in their judgment, while the extraverted type prioritizes objective factors. This difference can cause miscommunication, especially for introverts who feel undervalued in a world that values the tangible. However, if they stay true to their principles, they can dispel these misunderstandings and avoid the label of being egotistic. 4. Introverted sensation. Introverted sensation prioritizes the individual's personal experience and interpretation over objective reality. It draws from unconscious dispositions and past experiences to give personal significance to sensory information, creating a subjective perception. This is in contrast to extraverted sensation, which focuses solely on the present moment. The introverted sensation type focuses on their subjective experience of sensations, rather than objective observations, and this can lead to unpredictable behavior. They may also struggle to communicate and understand their own thoughts and emotions, and therefore rely on archaic expressions. Their perceptions are influenced by the collective unconscious, and this can result in a distorted view of reality. 5. Introverted intuition. Introverted intuition focuses on the subjective understanding of unconscious mental content, and on the images it generates, rather than on outer experiences. This type of intuition perceives the inner workings of consciousness and the meaning behind phenomena. It is concerned with archetypes from the collective unconscious and can bring new perspectives to life. Introverted intuition is important for psychic development, as seen in the role of prophets throughout history. The introverted intuition type prioritizes inner imagination, which can result in being a dreamer, seer, or artist, but also a crank. This intuition can cause a disconnection from reality and can lead to being misunderstood, either as a genius or as a simpleton. Those with a moral orientation will try to incorporate their intuition into their life, but this can lead to a lack of adaptability to reality and to irrationality. Introverted intuitive types are concerned with the potentialities, possibilities, and probabilities of the unconscious and the perception of one's experience as a whole. They are creative and imaginative, but their focus on their inner world can lead them to neglect external reality, and they have problems communicating with and understanding the perspectives of others, which can lead to difficulty in forming relationships. 6. Introverted irrational types. Introverted people are often misunderstood due to their introspective nature and quiet demeanor, which makes them difficult to read. They communicate indirectly and focus on internal experiences, which can make them seem unfriendly or distant. Nevertheless, they represent the inner world and can provide valuable insights for those who are open-minded. Our society tends to overemphasize verbal communication and external success, but the best education can come from observing how someone lives. Introverted people may lack reason and ethics, but they can demonstrate a more complete humanity that is often lacking in our current culture. 7. The principal and auxiliary functions. It is uncommon to find individuals who embody only one of the pure types, and usually a secondary function with weaker differentiation is present and plays a significant role. A function is considered dominant when its principle, not just its use, influences conscious orientation. The dominant function is the individual's preferred method of perception and decision-making, is the source of the person's strength and confidence, and works to serve an individual's conscious attitude. Only one function can hold this level of authority, otherwise there will be contradictions, and so the secondary must complement the primary one without conflicting with it. People with equal levels of thinking and feeling are considered immature, and a balanced mix of conscious and unconscious functions is a sign of a primitive mentality. The unconscious functions can be categorized based on conscious ones, and developing the repressed function through the secondary function is more effective than attempting to develop it directly. And that brings us to the end of Chapter 10 of Psychological Types. Before we end, we should note that some Jungian theorists, such as Myers and Briggs, have interpreted Jung as claiming that the auxiliary functions are always in the opposing attitude to the dominant function. While Jung did mention that this can be the case, he did not present it as a rule, and so there is no consensus on whether all extroverts have an introverted secondary function, and vice versa. To clarify, there is one dominant function determined by one's attitude, two auxiliary functions, the secondary and the tertiary, and an inferior function. If the dominant function is thinking, then the inferior function is feeling, and vice versa. And if the dominant function is sensation, then the inferior function is intuition, and vice versa. The remaining functions will be auxiliary. As the dominant function is the most conscious, the inferior function is the most unconscious and is repressed through the same process that causes the dominant function to become expressed. The auxiliary functions then are relatively conscious or unconscious and can become fully conscious through integration. It is therefore reasonable to think that while the inferior function is reasonably always of the opposing attitude to the dominant, the auxiliary functions may be either extroverted or introverted. An even more reasonable interpretation may be that all individuals possess both introverted and extroverted forms of every function, with the relative consciousness and unconsciousness of each being determined by one's type. If you found this video helpful or interesting, please consider subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell icon so that you can be notified when we release more videos like this. You can support us by sharing the channel with a friend, or by visiting one of the links in the description. Thank you as always for spending some time here, and I look forward to seeing you again.